Delta CX, available for CX and UX consulting, projects, and training. Contact us for a free consultation.
Good morning, everybody. This is a surprise unscheduled podcast because I woke up with something on my mind and I figured let's just get it out there because, as you know, my goal right now is to have a library of content available on YouTube for free as people want or need it. So this is a bit of a strange time. This is Saturday, April 18th at 9 in the morning where I am in Central Europe. So Californians, it's midnight for you. People in Europe, good morning. People east of me in India, hope you're enjoying your lunch. I wanted to go live and talk about UX networking, and it was inspired by a post I saw this morning as I woke up and I was laying in bed and I looked through LinkedIn. That's where you get all of my really bad typing. If I ever spell stuff wrong, it's probably then because I don't have my glasses on. I have no idea what I'm saying. So I saw a post from a guy who appeared to be a recruiter, and he said, "Hey, I just got a UX job in. Where do I find UX people?" And his questions were specifically like, where do UX people hang out? What groups do they belong to? And what websites can I poke around to see their portfolios? And my thought was, oh boy, I think it's time to have a talk about this. The answer for me, and probably some people like me, is none of the above. I really don't join groups or hang out in groups. I do not have my portfolio on a platform site. I have it on my own domain. And even if you went and hung out in a group of UX people, does that mean you would know what to ask them? Does that mean you would know how to assess their portfolio, or are you just flipping through Behance looking for pretty things? So it made me want to just go for it, go live, unscripted, unprepared, and talk about UX networking. And I just made a couple of notes on a paper covered in chocolate, because that's how I roll. So I want to start by telling you guys a couple of stories about myself. And the first one is from back in 2009. And by the way, I am watching the LinkedIn chat room and the YouTube chat room because we are live. So if you have comments or questions, or just want to tell me what time it is where you are and how you're doing, I would love to hear that. So in 2009, I had moved to a new city. And I figured, well, I'm new here. Let's get out there and maybe meet some new people. What am I into? Let's find a meetup group. And at the time, I was very into law of attraction. And I don't know if you're familiar with that, but in case you're not, I'll give you the short version. It's kind of a spiritual approach, non-religious, that basically has the foundational idea of whatever is kind of your mind's focus and whatever your vibes are is probably what's going to happen to you. So kind of a you get what you wish for philosophy. If you can stay positive and think great things and focus on things that you want, there's a chance they'll come to you. And if you are a more negative person, you might not see the things you want coming to you. So that is an extremely short, terrible description of law of attraction, but it's relevant to the story. And I was really into it at the time, whereas now it's not something I think about as much, but I believe it exists because I believe it's how I get anything done. So, hey, good morning to some of our viewers on LinkedIn, one person on YouTube. Hello. So I decided to join this Law of Attraction meetup group in Boston, where I was for a very short time in 2009. And I figured, great, I'll meet other like-minded people who are into the Law of Attraction, and they're seeing the benefits from it in their lives as well, and I'll meet some really nice people with some good vibes. And I had a friend at the time who I told this plan to, and she said, don't go to that meetup. And I said, why not? I'm new here, want to meet people, I'm into law of attraction. And she said, don't do it, because if you're successfully doing law of attraction and making things happen in your life, most of the time or some of the time, you're not going to the meetup. You're too busy getting it done and in some ways living the life you're trying to live. You don't need the meetup. Hey, Faizan says it's Dubai, 11 in the morning. And Ola says it's about 6 p.m. in Orange in Australia. Hello, I'm in Italy. It's 9 a.m. So my friend said, don't go. The people who go to a law of attraction meetup are the people not getting law of attraction done. The people who are getting it done kind of don't need the meetup. And I was like, I don't know. There's got to be people like me there. I'll meet some nice people. So I went to the meetup, and as it was the law of attraction meetup, and I don't know what other ones are like, this was Boston in 2009, they were letting people kind of stand up and say something about themselves and tell a little story. So I'm like, oh, good. Here come good stories from nice people who are getting things done in their lives. And every single person who stood up told a horrible story. I want this, but it's not happening, and I can't make it happen, and it's not working for me. Now, of course, if you believe in law of attraction, then you would believe that the negative energy you put out saying all those things contributes to these things not happening for you. So I'm just sitting there like, what? What? So long story short, kind of nobody who stood up at the law of attraction meetup seemed to be following the approach. And I did not go back to another meetup. This is sometimes, not always, the way I see some UX meetups, some UX groups, some UX Slack channels. My concern is that anybody who's getting it done, anybody who has that job or is writing that book or is working on their stuff or is busy with something, busy learning, busy doing, sometimes doesn't make time for these groups. So then who's in these groups? Sometimes, of course, fantastic people. Sometimes it's all the people not getting it done who are hoping to find the people who are getting it done. And so my suggestion is, consider what your time is worth, because even if you don't have a job right now, your time is worth something. It is valuable. And consider what are the most likely ways for you to make those connections and get that job. Because I'm going to talk more about this, because you're hearing a lot right now on LinkedIn. Oh, if you're looking for jobs, or if you got laid off, or if it's tough times now, do more networking. And you hear a lot about do more networking, and that normally translates into people suggesting joining LinkedIn groups, joining Slack channels, attending some webinars in some cases, and like adding everybody on LinkedIn. And one common thing that you'll see is somebody who has a lot of followers or connections will be like, I have a lot of followers or connections. Let's pay it forward. Comment beneath here, and let's meet and add each other. So it's like this giant swap meet. Hello from India. Hello, Ola, who says, I share your views mostly. Hey, you don't have to agree with me. If I have some minor piece of part of an idea that rings true for you or makes you see things in a new way, it's still worth it. You don't have to agree with me in part or in whole. I always hope that I trigger some critical thinking in people, and that's going to be true definitely for this networking, because I wonder how many people are pouring so much time into adding all these LinkedIn connections and trying to connect with people and going to groups and trying to post to groups and all this stuff. And how often does that pay off, and what is the goal? So I think we have to think about having more of a strategy for networking. So, for example, if you think back to when you went to in-person networking events, whether those were meetups or things held by your town's commerce group, I've been to plenty of those. And when I think about it, I realize that not everybody I met was somebody I'd want to do business with. I remember going to these in-person groups in Tucson, Arizona, where I lived for many years, and there was always like 10 insurance agents. And I'm sorry, I have an insurance agent, so I'm probably not going to do business with any of you. There was always 3 people in a multi-level marketing scheme who wanted to pull me in to sell greeting cards and oils. I'm sorry, but I'm not going to do business with any of you. And sometimes there was 1 or 2 people who seemed like good people who might become friends or business associates, and I made some good long-term relationships there. So it's not like these things never have value. They do have value, but we have to sometimes weigh it. So for example, I eventually stopped going to some of these groups because every time I went, it was the same people. The group didn't really change. I'd met all the people. I felt like I met the good ones, didn't want to do business with the other ones, moved on. So I think we do have to consider what is worth our time and where have we kind of reached critical mass with some of this networking. So if you are right now looking for a job and you're making a lot of time to be part of groups or Slack channels or whatever, I would say, okay, but pay attention to how and if any of that is making sense or paying off. Because I remember talking to some people, it might have been Texas, but I've heard this from some other places, and they were going to in person meetings and meetups for UX groups and meetups. And I remember hearing, especially in the last year or two or so, as boot camps and trade schools have been graduating dozens of people many times a year, and they're all being told, go network, go to meetups, join meetups, all that. So all of a sudden, these meetups are flooded with all of these new UX graduates who are looking for jobs, and they've been told, go to these meetups, find all the people who have jobs, network with them, maybe they'll help you out. That's tough. That's tough for a couple of reasons. So, number one, some of the people told me privately, I stopped going to the meetup because I felt like, there was this mad rush to meet me because I'm more experienced and I have a job and I'm somehow going to help everybody or make time to mentor all these people, and I can't do that. And I had some people tell me that they decreased their meetup attendance because they just felt like everybody there wanted to ring them out and wanted something from them. So that's not really relationship building. And even if you said, oh, well, some of them wanted to take me to coffee and buy me a $4 coffee to pick my brain. And, that works for some people and that doesn't work for other people. Not everybody wants to have their brain picked for free or for a $4 coffee. Not everybody has time to mentor and answer questions for every person who has questions. I don't either, but I do it by holding podcasts and live streams so I can answer the most questions to the most people in a format that is rewatchable. It's a little different when it's just you and me going for coffee, and that knowledge may or may not make it to other people. So, unfortunately, I see some attendance by more veteran or experienced UX people sometimes decreasing at some meetups because they feel like everybody is just flooding them. And I get a lot of private messages from time to time. It's been less since the economy dropped, but especially last year, I will get private messages and I will get connection requests. And some of these are friendly, and that's fine. But I'm talking about the ones that are like, hello, I found you on LinkedIn. Can you please help me get a job? The answer to that is usually 100% no. And not because I'm some sort of jerk. And some of you may think I'm a jerk, and that's okay. But it's not because I would say I'm not a jerk, but again, that's one woman's opinion. And the problem is you're asking me to put my reputation and trust on the line to recommend you to someone I know who has an open job when I don't know you. It's hard. If you think about real life, we don't usually recommend a person or a service we have not done business with. You might say, well, I heard of that mechanic, but I really haven't worked with her before, so I don't know if she's any good or not. You can give her a try. Well, that's not really a recommendation. That's just I know that person exists. It's hard for me to recommend you for a job when I've never worked with you. I don't know what your personality is like. I don't know if your work is any good. Even if I've looked at your portfolio, I may or may not be totally sure if your work is any good. So sometimes if I see a really stellar portfolio, I might feel comfortable recommending that person. But in general, you can't just write to me and say, please help me get a job, or please help me with whatever. I try to help people as much as I can, and those of you who follow will know that that's my goal in life, but I can't always give everything away for free. Neither can you. So, we have to think more about what networking means. I want you guys to be careful of the posts. I think I started mentioning this before. The posts on LinkedIn that are like, hey, I have a lot of followers and let's pay it forward. And everybody comment under here and say who you are or what you need. And then let's just add each other. This is a little bit like going to the Tucson networking group and assuming that everybody there is someone I'm going to do business with. And in reality, not everybody there is someone I'm going to do business with. So that whole mass thing that you see under some people's posts, I tend to believe that it's not genuine. That doesn't mean it's never genuine, but I tend to believe it's not genuine because the number one thing that person accomplishes when you press like or you write your comment underneath with who you are or what you need or what you're looking for is that person teaches the LinkedIn algorithm how popular they are on LinkedIn. That will get their profile boosted and that will get more of their posts shown to more people. So just know that not everybody putting those posts out there necessarily wants people to find each other. They might want those comments. Also, when people say like, I added 40,000 followers in the last week, my question is usually, did you pay for those? Because that's really hard to do. When I think about some of the most popular people who I admire on LinkedIn, who are from more of the UX or CX or customer space, I think of someone like Jonathan Tesser. He's got 40,000 followers and I think 30,000 connections, but that's in total. So that's something he's worked on for quite a long time. Somebody who just got 40,000 followers in the last X days, weeks, whatever, chances are that's not totally true. I think I have something like 6,500 followers right now. And hypothetically, I could say, whoa, I got 6,000 followers in the last 2 weeks. That's not true. It took me years to get there. Most of the people who follow me or have added me are people who have, I would say at least half are people who've experienced me personally. People who met me at a job, people who I went and trained, people who came to one of my conference talks. I think I spoke at 50 conferences last year. So a lot of my LinkedIn connections and followers tend to be from those conferences. You heard me speak somewhere and you liked what I had to say, or you thought it'd be interesting to hear what I might say next, and you connected or you're following me. And then sometimes that ripples out. You had a connection that heard me or met me. You've seen them press like or comment on one of my posts. You became aware of something I posted to LinkedIn. You liked what I said. And so to me, that is a little bit more natural because to me, all of this comes down to the quality of the information that I present to you. If you hate what I present, if you are against the things that I stand for, you're not going to press like, you're not going to comment, you're not going to kind of help amplify my message, you're not going to assist in others meeting me or getting to know me. To me, that's a little bit more natural because that kind of matches what would happen if I went to an in-person meeting, met 10 insurance agents I wasn't interested in. I wouldn't be giving out their business card. I wouldn't be recommending them to anybody. So remember, when you're liking and you're commenting, you're recommending me and my content to other people. And because you think it's quality. That also means I'm telling people stop liking and commenting on things you hate. Stop liking and commenting because people want you to disagree. You have to understand when people say, do you agree? Do you disagree? And they write something clickbaity or they write something a little bit fiery. They want you, they're fine with you disagreeing and they don't care what your opinion is because when you post your disagreement, that helps the algorithm, whether this is Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, that tells LinkedIn, whoa, this person is so interesting or important that someone wanted to take the time to write a comment, maybe more than one comment. Wow, bump this up, bump this person up, bump this post up. And so I tell people if you really don't like something, don't like it, don't share it, don't comment on it. Let it sink to the bottom of the algorithm ocean. And that way we can try to create networking that's more about the quality of the person and not just somebody who's standing out in the middle of a town going, hey, I know lots of people. Connect with me. I know lots of people. Okay, but what do you know about those people? What do you know about any of those people? For those of you who tend to come to my podcasts and my office hours, I try to learn something about all of you. And I try to see if there's a little space in my brain where I can remember something. So next time Ola comes, I'll probably remember Ola. He's got a different picture than most people. He's outdoors. I don't know. I only know one other person named Ola. So he's probably going to stay in my head a little bit. There's a woman named Sarah who comes to some of my online things. I can see her picture in my head. I remember her. There's a guy named JF. I'm trying to find ways to create connections with people, even though we're at a distance and we're not talking. And to me, that's what networking should be about. Where are we creating personal connections where you understand what I do so that if something comes up, you can go, I think Debbie would be a good match for that. And where can we create a connection where if something comes up, I say, oh, you know what? I happen to review Mariam's portfolio. She looks like she'd be a good match for that. Now, I can't just do that with everybody in general. I can't say, hey, Faizan stopped by my podcast. His title says Senior UX Designer. He probably knows what he's doing. I don't know. I'm sorry. I don't know if I can recommend you or not. I don't have enough experience with you. So to me, networking is about how can we create some sort of experience where you can tell whether or not you would want to work with me, do business with me. Now, for me, that's mostly writing posts, writing articles, so you can find me on Medium, and doing my live streams and my videos. I believe that people who see these will either be like, Deb seems interesting. I might want to work with her. Or, man, I don't like Deb. She's this, this, and this, and this, and she's really not my kind of person, or you hate me, so you're not going to do business with me. That's fine. But you've had some sort of experience and you've made a decision based on experience. And so I think, how can we create that in an online universe, and especially if we're quarantined and we can't have those in-person meetups, and not everything works on Zoom, because let's face it, if there's one thing that Zoom and video conferencing bring out, it's you really get to know very quickly who are the more gregarious and social and extroverted people, and who are a little bit more shy and reserved and perhaps introverted. And the problem is that the gregarious people, like me, will tend to dominate a conversation, sometimes on purpose and sometimes by accident. And the people who are more introverted or shy or not as confident about their speaking or expressing themselves, sometimes they say nothing in these meetings. Now we didn't get to know those people. And so when I do those things, I try to specifically call on the people who are a little bit more shy and more introverted. It can put them on the spot. They don't love that, but I want to get to know those people too. I don't do that to you to piss you off or to make you speak when you don't like speaking, but I want people to even just say something you're comfortable with. Hi, this is who I am. This is where I am. Here's something in life that I like. I've got dogs. I like pizza. Whatever it is, it's just going to break that ice, and we're going to get a little bit of a feel for you, and you might find people following up. They want to get to know you, and maybe you can have some one-on-one conversations where you might be more comfortable. But these big group meetings are not great for everybody. They're not great in real life. They're not great online. So what can we do to help people get to know us, especially if we might be a little bit more shy and not like me? I'm not shy. I technically am an introvert. I know nobody believes me on that one, but I believe the textbook definition of an introvert is someone who feels more recharged, charges up their batteries, and feels more recharged when they are more alone, or maybe just with one person. And the extrovert is someone who feels really recharged in that group setting. And while I enjoy group settings, and I have a background as a singer, so I'm kind of a performer, I recharge individually. I'm really a loner. I know you guys might be like, Deb, no way. I can imagine her at a party, but I'm not the life of the party. I know it's hard to believe. I'm not the life of the party. I shy away from that. So we're not all performers. We're not all public speakers, and that's okay. But I want people to start to think about being more comfortable with just talking about yourself, talking about the things that you know about. That is your best chance at networking. Your best chance of networking is you typing in this chat so I remember you and you've said something, and I'll hopefully remember you next time. And to me, that's networking. Networking is, so let me tell you this. People will say, Debbie, you pop up on LinkedIn a lot, for better or for worse. Do you get any business from it? What's your business model? Now, I do get business from it, but so far, not a lot. I would say maybe once a year, somebody hires my agency to do some work because they found me in a search. They checked out one of my websites, because I've got a few, and they liked what I did, and they spoke to me. Now, I can still mess up that sale. I can still not get that client, but it was a good match. I got the client. So I'd say about once a year I get some sort of medium-sized project through someone on LinkedIn who finds me. There are also people who sometimes will say, hey, we've got an open job. And I'll say, hey, can I apply for your open job? And they'll say, what? You do jobs? And hey, aloha from Camila, who is I should say, a friend of the show. She drops by from time to time. And hey, it's really early there. Go back to sleep. You are up way too late. If you said aloha, where are you? And I have to click on you. Or what can I mouse? I can't mouse over and see where you are. That's a bad thing. I have to open you up in a new window. Hello, honey, in India. It's lunchtime there, I know. Yeah, Camila, you really are in Honolulu. Camila, get some sleep. Okay, it's Friday into Saturday night. You're having the quarantine party. That's okay. But I know Camila's smiley face and her curly hair and her little extra curl up front, so I try to remember something about everybody where I can. So people do contact me on LinkedIn sometimes and say, hey, Deb, I'm thinking about bringing you in on a project I have. Are you available? That's a dream come true. But for the most part, these are people who had some sort of interaction with me. You are in Hawaii. I know, Camila. Am I saying Camila correctly? Write it down if I'm not. So these are people who had some sort of interaction with me, in that they've read some of my posts and they commented on them and I commented back, and we had a little bit of a back and forth, so they got a feel for talking to me. There are people who've attended my office hours or my podcasts, so they got a feel for me. Some of them watched a couple of my videos and they got a feel for me. So to me, the real networking happens when you do something where I can get a feel for you. Now, does that mean everybody has to start streaming? That's not going to be comfortable for everybody. It could be. Does that mean you have to start writing a lot? Some people love to write. Some people hate to write. Some people are bad at writing. Some people are good. Some people would be better if they wrote and had an editor looking at it. But the problem is, I find that boot camps tell a lot of people, write articles. Go to Medium, write articles. I've read some of these articles, and honestly, I don't think they make everybody look good. So you have to think about, what can I do that makes me look good? I know I don't always look good. I have some controversial opinions that some people disagree with. I have controversial opinions that some people find it refreshing and they're happy to hear it. That's fine. I'm putting myself out there and I'm not always playing it safe. But I find that some people who are especially very new to UX, maybe haven't had their first job yet, and they go out and try to write about UX and sound authoritative. Or sometimes these boot camps are telling people, go out and become a leader, be a thought leader. You got to remember, the definition of a thought leader is an expert to the experts. If you are not an expert to other experts, you are probably not a thought leader or a leader. We've got a comment here. Ola says, yep, like you, I'm a loner too, but people don't realize this. Just because you have a public platform and are openly passionate doesn't mean you're extroverted. It's very true. And again, I'm a singer. I do a lot of karaoke when humans get together. I don't drink, so I do karaoke sober. So people think like I'm this people magnet. And I do a lot of public speaking, but after the public speaking, I love to go. Usually I find a part of the convention center where no conference is being held, and I hide there the rest of the day. And that doesn't mean I'm being antisocial. I'll usually join for lunch. I'll go eat lunch with people. But I really love being alone. And that's part of the reason why I'm not struggling in the quarantine. And I know many people are struggling, is that I've always been a loner and I tend to stay home and work. And so staying home and working and doing my thing is not so bad. So back to networking. Sorry, this is totally unplanned today, so I'm having a little trouble staying on the topic. Apologies to people listening later on some of the podcast formats. This goes out, of course, on Spotify, Google Play, and iTunes. And I know this one might be a little more rambly than usual, but think about what you can do that helps people feel like they've gotten to know you. Can you shoot a short video about yourself? Can you post some things on LinkedIn? Not personal things, because LinkedIn is still not Facebook, everybody. And I think the quarantine has made some people forget that. I'm a little bit of a purist. I would like LinkedIn to remain LinkedIn and a business and networking platform. So consider what goes on LinkedIn and perhaps what is better on Facebook and more social channels. But how can people get to know you in a business sense? And I think that's where the networking really happens, is when you feel like there's something you know about me. You feel like there's something that makes us feel connected, and you feel like there's something you like about me. And now you're going to reach out to me and say, hey, Deb, I think I might have some work for you, because you have a good feeling about me. And I did that with someone on LinkedIn. Now, it hasn't panned out yet because my project got put on hold because of the virus, but I had this huge potential project, and my thought was, who can I hire to work on this with me? And I thought about a woman who had done a private consultation session with me to take a look at her resume and portfolio. And so I got to talk to her for an hour. I saw her resume, I saw her portfolio. And on a business level, I just fell in love with her. And my thought was, wow, when can I work with this person? Now, that being said, I don't have work for her. But I have good feelings about her, and I would like to try working with her. Now, of course, we can't do that with everybody. Not everybody has time to have a meeting with everybody and get to know them in some way that we're all going to turn around and recommend each other. So that's not totally realistic. But I do think, in general, what can you do, especially those of you looking for work and thinking about networking, what can you do so that I can get to know you a little bit? Is there an article you can write? It doesn't have to be on Medium. It can be on your own website. It can be on LinkedIn. Heads up, LinkedIn tends to deprioritize in the algorithm their own articles. So that's part of why people write so much on Medium or their own blog. But if you don't want to write on Medium or you don't want to write on your own blog, what can you write on a LinkedIn post, on an article that helps me get to know you as a business person, that helps me understand your approach, that helps me understand what some of your work priorities are or goals? What do you find rewarding at jobs? And if we start seeing these little sparks in each other, perhaps we'll be inspired to get to know each other better. But I think we have to remember that outside of that, a lot of what people are calling networking right now is very shallow and very surface, and in many cases, certainly not all, but in many cases probably does not lead to those jobs and those introductions that we would want. Because you would think, so let's play numbers here. You guys know I love math. I've got what, 6,500 connections or followers? I don't even know. I don't keep track. But for you, for right now, I'll check. Let me see, because let's use numbers, and let's use real numbers. So according to this, I have 6,741 followers. And for connections, because I don't connect with everybody, let's see, will it show me how many connections I have? I'm connected to about 2,400 people, which is still a lot. So I've got 6,700-ish people, almost 7,000 people who might know if I post something or might know if I go live. So that's a pretty big audience. It's certainly not as big as some other people who have tens of thousands or more, but it's a good number. I'm not complaining, and I'm certainly not bragging either. But you would think that if I post to LinkedIn, hey, I'm looking for work. I'm looking for freelance work. I'm looking for contract work. I'm looking for someone to hire my agency. I'm looking for whatever. Now, you would hope or think 1, 2, 10, 40, 50, 200 people write to me and go, oh my God, Deb, we like Deb. Yeah, Deb, we've got work for you. But I found that that didn't happen. And so you have to start to think about what is the meaning and the power of the LinkedIn network. And why are you building that network? Now, for me, it's really more to get my ideas, information, and advice out there for free. If I had the goal of, I want this many people tuning into my live stream, or I want this many people offering me jobs, or I want this many people hiring me, then I would just fade away because for the most part, that doesn't happen even for me. Like I said, I probably get one client a year. I think I'm about to get my first one from a friend of the show who contacted me yesterday and said, I might have some side work that I want to share with you. Amazing if it happens and amazing if it doesn't happen. But guys, seriously, this happens to me maybe once a year. I would love for it to happen more because that is my business model. My business model is I hope people fall in love with what I have to say. I hope they find something in it that's useful for them. I hope it sparks critical thinking. I hope it makes a change or a shift or I can be a catalyst in some way. That's my top goal, which is why I keep doing it. The secondary goal is maybe somebody will hire me for something. Maybe you'll want to bring me into your company to do some private training because you get the feeling I can help. Maybe you want me to speak at your conference. That's the secondary goal. And those happen once in a rare while, and that's beautiful when it does. I usually cry. But the rest of it to me is the rewarding part. When people send me messages and say, some advice you gave helped me at my job, or some advice you gave helped me in a bad situation. Like, I usually start crying. That's why I'm here. So what is your network for? If your network is a group of people you hope you can wring out and get every drop of water out of when you decide you need something, let me tell you, it could happen. I hope for you it happens, but it doesn't even happen for me. And that's okay. I'm not mad. I'm not complaining because there's some little part of the back of my head that's law of attraction that says everything will work out. And so that's okay. And then I see someone like Lee from Akathame, who's been a guest. I've been a guest with her. Akathame is Akathame. Lee from Akathame is one of those people who is like, wait a minute. I see magic here. I want person A to meet person B. And she will send a private message to the two of us and say, you two need to meet. Or she will do a live podcast or live stream and put two people together and say, like, you two have to talk. So Lee is that truly magical person who is that matchmaker personality who says, wait a minute, I see a couple of people here who I think should be talking to each other. I'm going to make them talk to each other. And we all love her and respect her enough that if she says, you need to talk to that person, we go, holy crap, I need to talk to that person. So I'm not quite Lee. I try to be Lee where I can be because she's a great person to be like. But outside of that, I just want to remind people that collecting people on LinkedIn, collecting followers, collecting connections, collecting online buddies, that it only goes so far. And that what really, really makes any of this turn into something on another level is where we can create personal connections, where you and I are chatting behind the scenes in a LinkedIn private message. Some people have now added me on Telegram. They're messaging me there. I've got my own Slack channel, Slack workspace. It's free to join. You can find it at the bottom of deltacx.com. In the footer. It's not very active, but the people there know if they have a question, they can type it there and I will answer as soon as possible. So they know they have my ear. And I think that that's ultimately what we need to focus on. Not finding the thought leaders and the authors and the people and seeing what we can get from them. It's just connecting with people on a human level. And I think if you think back to the friends you've made, and you think back to the business associates that you have, and if you think back to the people at your jobs who you became the closest to, either in a work sense or you became friends outside of work, it was about natural connections. It was not about forcing things. It was not about showing up to a Slack channel and posting stuff and posting memes and reposting quotes. It's not about the strategies that some people tell you you're supposed to use to build your personal brand and be a thought leader. I'm putting these in air quotes. To me, it's how can we recreate what makes natural human relationships exist and flourish. And it's about me feeling like there's something I know and like about you. That's where everything starts. There's something I know and like about you, which is why every time a movie has a plot of they hated each other, but then they fell in love, I'm like, turn this crap off. I have never hated someone and then ended up loving them. So we have these kind of false ideas of some of these things, but think about the relationships. Think about what makes you still tune in listening to me a half hour later, especially when I'm kind of rambling unscheduled here. What is it? What am I getting right when I'm getting it right that makes you want to hear what I have to say or get to know me? And what can you say? What can you get right that would make me want to hear you? I want to hear what you have to say, want to read your article. I have to admit, I don't do a lot of reading. I read some Medium articles. There are a few people I follow on Medium, but I think it's like 4. I don't make a lot of time to read. And when I watch YouTube, it's mostly to turn my brain off. So admittedly, the YouTubers I follow are generally not UX people. I'm following Davey504, who is hilarious. I follow How to Cook That, which is an Australian woman who cooks things with pounds of sugar that I will never eat. I've started following, as some of you know from my Medium article, Lock Picking Lawyer, who's a dude who picks locks. It's, for some reason, very relaxing. So, how can we get to know each other? Private message me. I will quickly know if you are someone I would want to talk more to, and you will quickly know if I'm someone you'd like to talk more to. That's why, to me, everything in life is speed dating. If you start private messaging me, we're going to know if we find a connection on a business level, on a personal level, whatever it is. But it's wherever we can make those personal connections in whatever platform, that to me, that's where the real networking happens. That's where I say, hey, you know what? I finally got to know, one person I've been getting to know is Randy Bapst, who from uxstars.com. And we're at the point now where we've gone beyond business. We send each other wacky personal stuff, and that's just fun and silly. And, but that's a person who I think of. And it's like, oh, that could be something for Randy. And I think it's a matter of how do we get into each other's minds in a good way? How do we get on each other's mental maps? And I think that's not done just by connecting. It's not done just by following each other. It's not done just by, it's not done passively. So commenting on posts, writing posts, videos, articles, but people go for quality, not quantity. Some people have said, how long should my article be? I don't care if your article is 2 paragraphs. If you say something that makes me go, yeah, I now feel connected to you in some way. Doesn't have to be a 5-minute read. Doesn't have to be hundreds or thousands of words. If you have a short idea and it's a cool idea, I want to know about it. And if you're not the best writer, if you don't speak English that well, I kind of don't care. If I want to know about your ideas, I want to know who you are as a person. And to me, that's where the networking happens. What about you guys? You're listening to me yap on and on in this surprise Saturday morning podcast. I haven't even had a sip of water yet. Hold on. I've got my windows open. The birds are singing. The neighbors' puppies are crying, if you can hear that in the background. What do you guys think when you think about business connections you've made and times that you've recommended someone for a job or they recommended you for a job? What kind of connection had you made with that person before? Was there something that really made that person know your work or understand your work or get a good feel for you? What was there that preceded that? Because I find that, yeah, once in a while I get people interested in me as a worker from finding me in a search. I do something they're looking for. But mostly I find it's people who read my articles, saw some podcasts or office hours, saw one of my conference talks that's floating around YouTube. They heard me say or do something that made us feel connected. But when I think about you, like, let's pick on somebody here. Camila, you join my stuff from time to time. You comment on it. I love that. I recognize you. But what do I really know about you? And wouldn't it be great if I knew something about you? Now I know you're in Hawaii and you stay up all hours. But what else do I know about you? What could I know about you? And it's Mateo. Yay! Mateo says, at least sometimes I'm here. And Mateo, I know you. Mateo, we've met in person. You drove my butt around Manchester. We shared food. You know, we have a good connection. That's a beautiful thing. I'm talking more about the people who I have not had the honor and pleasure to meet in real life at conferences and speaking events and things like that. Because many of the people who've connected me with me here have met me in person, and are surprised at how short I am. But I'm talking about a lot of these other people who sometimes think they can just connect with me and I'm going to recommend them for a job. Well, hold on. I don't know anything about you. And you can't just join a LinkedIn group and assume that everyone's going to throw jobs at you and recommend you for jobs. You and 10,000 other people joining that group. So it's some people say it's about building your personal brand, but I don't want to be sold to. I want to find some way to connect with you as a person. And those of you who have connected with me, I'll typically say like, "Hey, friend of the show," like, or if I see you enough, because like now you're somebody who's in my world, and even if you've only come here once and joined in once. Hopefully, I'll recognize you next time, and maybe I'll hear from you privately. Sometimes people go, "Oh, Debbie, I was afraid to write to you privately." I would say fear is not the right emotion to have unless you want to write to me and say you love design thinking, because then you know I'm going to pick on you. Hello to someone who just pressed like, but your name appears to be in a language I don't speak, so I can't call you by name. So hello to person with name that I won't be able to say in English, but you have a very friendly smiley picture, and that I will remember. Yes, Mateo, you're so lucky to have watched me eat food. It's so sad. So, yes, Mateo, you've seen the version of me with makeup and hair done versus the version of me on videos with my dirty shirts. So, I want to figure out how we can more personally connect with each other because I just get the feeling it's not done through groups. It's not done by joining more Slack channels for UX and more Slack channels for freelancers and more Slack channels for this and that. How do you have time for all those Slack channels? I'm busy trying to do stuff. When I'm not busy, I turn to writing. Now, you guys know this because I write a mountain of stuff. But what could you turn to that might have something relevant to your career later on? I call it planting seeds. So, for example, right now I'm working on the workshop version of my Delta CX book. For people who didn't want to read the book or didn't have time to read the book or don't like reading, I'm working on an interactive workshop version that's all PowerPoint slides and me talking and some fun interactive exercises. And that will be a workshop. When will that be ready? No idea. Will anybody attend it? I have no idea. Will anybody want me to come and give it at their company? Don't know. Will anybody pay for a video version? I don't know. But I feel like I can, by working on these things, I'm planting seeds for the future. Because what else can I do right now? I'm trying to learn a couple of new things. I'm trying to learn some video editing software, which I'm really terrible at. Tried to learn it a little bit. I've messed up nearly every video I've put out. So that's kind of cool. I'm learning. Some of you know I'm doing quarantine karaoke, which I've put up on YouTube under a different account, so wouldn't bug people who like to get Delta CX stuff. I put it up under The Apiary Studio. I think I have 3 videos up right now, but I wanted to put up 1 a day, but my voice isn't great every day. You know, what can I do that helps you feel like you're getting to know me, and what can I do right now that plants seeds for later? And for some people, that's writing. For some people, that's learning new things. But if you don't have time for any of these things right now, if the quarantine is just too wacky and stressful, and as Matteo and I have discussed, many of you have been surprised by having to homeschool 1 or more children, please do not put pressure on yourself to follow any of these memes or gurus or crappy low empathy posts that say you need to be learning more and doing more, and your quarantine isn't getting it done if you didn't whatever. I spent some time yesterday sewing a mask that I invented. I started out with patterns. I hated all of them, so I spent hours inventing my own mask. That felt creative because I'm not an artist. I can't draw stuff. What can you do that I can then see later that gives me a feel for who you are? Articles, videos, posts, even just commenting on my posts, commenting on other people's posts. It's all about the interaction. We can't be passive about this stuff, and we can't just collect connections. We have to find ways to interact with these people, or we're not going to make those connections. And to me, that's what networking is about. And I've spent almost an hour saying this, so I should let you guys go and have whatever day or night you're going to have. Hopefully, weather's good where you are. I think we're expecting some rain today here in the Mediterranean. How about where you are? How's the weather? What's your plan for the weekend? Let's see what my plan for the weekend is, because I'm always talking about how I'm planting seeds and I'm doing things. So what am I doing this weekend? I'm going to be working on my May articles for CMS Wire. I write 2 articles a month for CMS Wire, so I'm going to work on writing those. What are my topics? No idea, but I do have a list of things I wanted to make topics at some point, so I'll see if any of those don't suck. I'm going to make a contract for the person who thinks they want to do business with me, which I hope they will, so I'm going to do that. I had someone write me privately and say they had written an article about their approach to UX research and what did I think of that. So I'm going to review that. I found a job I'm not sure I'm qualified for, but I'm going to apply for it. I have a reminder every week to check my calendar for time I've accidentally blocked out that now should be open, in case any of you want my time. And I'm going to work on some communication I'd like to share with Agile trainers and coaches. But that's my to-dos for the weekend. You know, what are your to-dos? Obviously, that's a good amount of stuff, and it's going to take up hours on my weekend. My boyfriend and I are also planning to watch. We finally got our DVDs shipped to us. By the way, this is just fun now. If you guys want to tune out, you can. Finally got our DVDs shipped to us of Into the Electric Castle and Other Tales, which was live concerts we went to in September in the Netherlands. And it looks like for the live DVD, they used the last show, and we were at 2 shows. We were at the last show. So now it's going to be Where's Waldo? It's going to be Find the Tiny Head. I tried to take a picture of a picture and blow it up and see if I could find my boyfriend's tiny head and see if I could figure out where he was. And I think I have a picture of that. I think that's my boyfriend, but I'm not sure. I'm going to ask him. Like, it's a sea of people. They all look the same. I can't find myself. Honey, I'm glad you like the advice of not being passive. You know, it's hard because I know that many people can be passive, and in some cases that's cultural. That it's cultural for people to not be too aggressive, or I really shouldn't comment on other people's posts, or I shouldn't post my own things. Sometimes that's cultural, sometimes that's culture and gender, like, well, a man can do that, but a woman shouldn't do that. And obviously, I don't have any of those cultural attachments. I grew up outside outside of New York City where we are all fairly bold loudmouths. So I don't feel like, ooh, I shouldn't say anything. Now, as I get older, I'm trying to learn to not always say something, which is something I can continuously improve. It's something that I'm not always great at. Sometimes I should just shut up. But I think for people who are on the opposite end of that spectrum, it's great if you think about starting with comments. And one suggestion that I make is it's okay to make neutral comments. You don't have to show up and disagree with everybody or point out where they're wrong. It's okay to start out with, but I also feel like don't just go, yeah, I agree with you. Tell someone what you liked about their idea, or tell them how that idea meant something to you, or how you were able to use that idea or improve upon that idea. Because that is where you're building that connection. Yes, I'm seeing now on LinkedIn my boyfriend's tiny head. Try some of those things, but again, for some people, it's going to be a matter of comfort zones. It's going to be a matter of, ooh, is this culturally okay for me to say these things? And I think the problem is if you're too passive, I don't get to know you. I don't get to know anything about you. You're not on my mind. I'm not thinking about you. Like I've made a friend through LinkedIn who's from South Africa. I saw an open job from South Africa the other day. I thought of her, but then I realized I think she told me she already applied for it. But still, I sent it to her and I said, "Is this the job you applied for?" And she was like, "Yeah, that is the one." She's like, "Actually, I'm going to have like a second or third interview now." So that's great. Obviously, I can't keep 6,700 people in my head, but I have a pretty good memory, and I'll do my best to make connections with people where I can. And I think we just have to do that with each other, not just you to me. So that's it for today's surprise podcast on UX networking. A little bit rambly. Sorry about that. But hopefully we hit a couple of high notes, and hopefully I said some things that somebody found helpful in some way. So if there's no other questions, I will wrap this up and later today get it out as a podcast. And thanks to everybody for joining in. We actually had a really nice number of people join in, even though I know most of North America and South America were sleeping right now. Sorry, everybody. But hope to catch you soon. Please remember, we'll be podcasting again Monday on Clinical UX, puts the H in HCD with Dr. Giles Morrison. And then Tuesday is office hours. Join me then. So have a great weekend, everybody. Think about what networking means to you, and I will find a way to catch you guys soon. And let's see, now I have to press some buttons.
Thanks for watching. Delta CX is available for consulting and projects related to CX and UX strategy, leadership, training, problem finding, problem solving, and innovation. Learn more at deltacx.com.